Everyone. It's lovely to see so many more Sussex people because it's it's been 3 years since I left now, but it feels like a lifetime ago. So it's nice to see sort of familiar people, which is really nice. But hello, I'm Felix. I am a third year, just finishing my third year student at the University of Sussex in Brighton. I study politics and American studies, and it's been really good. It's been fantastic. I've had a really good time of it. Obviously COVID has kind of thrown things out the window a little bit, but it's been really fantastic. So I'm really happy to talk to the careers folks and you guys about what it's been like, what the sort of the experiences I've had with COVID, with the accommodation, with student finance and so on. So yeah, I know Paul said don't leave your questions to the end, but I am more than happy to take questions if it's needed. That's completely fine. But yeah, so I should just talk for 5 minutes or so and it'll be good. Okay, so I've got a big list of questions here, which I'll try and go through. So what's one of the best things about what I study, which is, again, politics and American studies at Brighton, at Sussex, I have to say is the year abroad, which is part of my course. So I think American studies at Sussex is one of the best American studies degrees in the country, as far as I know. So, Sussex isn't like the best of the best as a uni, but the way they teach American studies is really fantastic. And there's a fantastic bunch of staff there who are insanely passionate and knowledgeable about all the things they teach, and it's a really nicely very broad course. It's not just like you're limiting yourself to just politics or English or to history or anything like that. It's everything. But the year abroad, which is I believe at most American studies departments around the country is usually included, is one of the best parts. So I'm supposed to be going to Vancouver, Canada, the University of British Columbia in September. It's postponed from last year because of COVID. But yeah, and so I'm really excited about that. That's immensely exciting, and the American Studies and Study Abroad team there has been really good at like supplementing and helping me along with that, and they're very good at doing your application for you. But yeah, so of course there's also the politics side as well, and so I did politics at KEDS. I had Matt Cole and I can't remember the others now, but yeah, I really loved it there. I thought I'd love to do it. I'd love to do it more at Sussex, and so I did, and it's fantastic there as well. Obviously, as it sounds, it's politics, so you have these really fantastic back and forth debates between people. It works really well, and I've had a lot of fun with it. But that being said, the American Studies side is still my favourite part of it. But I mean, there's questions here about how much I sort of planned, that side of the my academic experience when I was leaving KEDS, and I have to say, like, not much. Like when I left KEDS, it was and was applying for stuff on UCAS in the second year. It was very much a case of I was set on doing just politics, and then the American Studies thing jumped out at me. So really, one of my biggest pieces of advice, if you haven't already, if you're maybe thinking of you're deferring a year, you haven't chosen a uni yet. Or even if you have, this really goes to anything. I'd say sort of be a bit spontaneous with the things you choose. If you like the sound of a degree, doing it in either just in isolation or doing it as part of a dual honours like I do, is just a really interesting choice, and it means you meet lots of more different people than you might have otherwise had a chance to meet. I really liked it, and of course, if it isn't quite for you, you can get rid of that part and you can stick with the part you do like and sort of mix and match it a bit. So I would say, just if you are choosing whatever you happen to be choosing, or if you're as you go through the years at uni and you're offered some sort of thing which you might be not quite sure, give it a go, because uni is really good for that. You can just sort of try whatever. Obviously it's hard to talk about uni without talking about COVID. I had a really, and I have to sort of make a big point of this, a really fantastic year and a half before COVID started. I was very lucky with the people I lived in halls, who I still live with today. The start of second year was fantastic. It was really good. I had a really good time, and then COVID happened, and it kind of felt like everything was thrown out the window, including my year abroad, which of course was postponed and nearly cancelled. But yeah, that really disappointed me. But that being said, I think the uni, and I'm sure this is probably true for you guys with the stuff at KEDS, have done a fairly good job at trying to adapt to that. It's not easy for anyone, but it's been interesting, and it has worked. Like all of the, I've had I think the same standard of teaching online in third year where it's been the most consistent. as I would have done in real life. It feels as though the staff are just as kind of committed, just as caring. They still have time to, to answer all your little concerns and worries and panics and so on. They always have time to do office hours. They have all of that. So if I can understand maybe going to uni now is a bit of a panic, a bit of a worry because of COVID, I would definitely say now that things seem to be improving, I think you should really have a fantastic time and sort of make the most of, being able to go outside and, I mean, you've heard this before, but being able to socialize, being able to chat to people is really nice. Just not having to do it in like a group of 6 and so on. And other sort of questions about work. Have I sort of pursued any work since, or work experience or anything relevant to the degree? Not much, really. I've been very lucky to sort of just be able to afford to not do that over the past 3 years. And I definitely say, unless you're very, very keen, and some people might disagree with this on me, but this is my opinion at least. Unless you're very, very keen on picking up some career work in your chosen career very early inside uni, whether that's a sort of a summer internship or something like that, which might be a fantastic idea. But I'd equally say those sort of student jobs, working behind a bar, which a lot of my friends do, that sort of thing. I'd say if you can afford it and you can support yourself through whatever means by just your student loan, through maybe savings you have, I'd definitely encourage you to just not take one of those student jobs and just enjoy being a student and being able to hang out with your friends and meet people without the panic of thinking, I've got to go to work in the morning, I'm going to be, I think there's certainly an opinion I had. There was a rush in my head. They had to get employed immediately as I came to Sussex, and I realised I do actually enjoy just not working for the time being. So I thought I'd wait until after uni to really give that a go. What other sorts of things? So accommodation, or actually rather, instead of accommodation, I'll do societies and stuff. That's one really fantastic thing I will say about Sussex and also other unis like it that I visited. Is when you don't work, you have a lot of chance to do things in societies. So I'm sure you probably already looked at any prospective unis you might have, but there's sort of an endless list of things that that cater to every single interest, whether that's dance or music or art or politics or culture or anything. So in the past, I did at Kedst, I did the debate society, and there's a sort of debate society like spin-off type thing at Sussex called Politics Society, and so you're able to have sort of discussions with people on these evenings where you drink and just chill out, and they have guest speakers, they have all sorts. And like I said, when you don't have a job and you can just sort of turn up to things on a whim, I definitely encourage you to do those. That goes back to what I was saying about do things on a whim. Definitely, if there's a society which kind of piques your interest and you think that might be something I could consider, definitely go for it, because there's stuff that I wish I had tried day one and people I could have met that I didn't meet because I didn't get active enough. That being said, over the last 3 years, I've been very active in Sussex Labour Society. So I'm currently secretary of that. I was events officer previously, and that's fantastic. That's having a chance before COVID ruined things. It was really brilliant to just plan things, to have sort of little events that you can call your own, that as a society you've worked towards with your committee, and giving you that kind of immediate early sense of leadership and planning for something on quite a big scale. That's kind of really, really interesting. COVID, I will say, it didn't ruin everything. We've had the chance to organise really fantastic events with sort of really interesting speakers. We had sort of lead designer for the Bernie campaign. We had like Sinn Féin MPs come and talk to us. So we've had all sorts. I definitely say, COVID or no COVID, there's still a really, really interesting, good chance for you to do some really kind of incredible society stuff. I'll do one or two more, I think. Another big thing is halls of residence. Of course, everyone really worries about where they're going to be placed, the type of people they're going to meet. And again, this is one of my opinions. It could be, you guys could be completely unconvinced by it, but I definitely say don't get taken in by all those the kind of really slick, very expensive uni blocks that you probably see in most places. That offer fantastic ensuite bathrooms and all sorts of really massive kitchens. I say really the rougher and readier the the accommodation, sometimes the better it can be, because you usually have a better crew of people who are sort of more chatty. You find if everyone's got an ensuite, everyone sort of eats in their room, everyone's very to themselves, everyone's very kind of very anonymous. And what I found in living in one of the cheapest kind of really, and it wasn't bad, one of the cheapest blocks on campus was that living with 10 other people, although it sounds a bit like a nightmare, and it kind of was at times, you met these really, really lovely people who, like I said, I still live with to this day. So I love that. I definitely recommend not going for the really expensive things just because it sounds kind of enticing. Usually the uni is probably trying to rip you off. That being said, if you do go in those places, that's fantastic. I was always really jealous of, I'd visit friends and they'd have like a massive kitchen, I guess. But yeah, I think that's sort of everything. I think if there's anything I can think of. Yeah, essentially, if you are going to uni, I think you're gonna have a fantastic time. Make the most of it. Take every chance you can get. That sounds like really kind of rubbish, stereotypical advice, but just kind of power through with it. And yeah, don't let COVID worry you. Just do whatever, because you might not get a chance to. It might get cancelled again. But yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you ever so much, then, Felix. That was really, really good. That was really insightful. Thank you ever so much. As I said, we'll have some questions and things once everyone has had their chance to introduce themselves and discuss their own experiences. But that was really great. Thank you ever so much. We'll now pass over to Daniel, who's a representative from representing Apprenticeships, who's also here with Heidi. So I'll pass you over to hear from him, and I'll disappear again now. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, I'm just sharing my screen, so bear with me for a second. So yeah, me and Heidi are here. We're going to be talking about apprenticeships. So it's my job to go into different schools. I work for a company called WorkPays. I go into different places talking about apprenticeships, support and knowledge. And Heidi has just finished one of her apprenticeships and looking for another one. So she'll give you a bit more of the real life view. I'll give you a bit of information to start with. I'm going to focus this around higher and degree because I believe everybody is in year 12, so that would be the ones targeting for you. So apprenticeships are a job. They're a job that focuses. I've totally lost my screen there. Am I still sharing? Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yep, we can see it.
I will carry on then. It's lost from my screen, but there it is. So yeah, apprenticeships are a job. They're a job that focuses around education. So it is full term, but you are still studying towards a specific qualification. For yourselves, as I mentioned, I'm going to focus on higher or degree level. So these fall into, from the ones on the screen, your 4, 5, 6 and 7s. To get onto these, you need further studies. So your A levels, if you're doing alternatives, so MVQs or BTECs, or if you've already passed a level 3 apprenticeship. Can't give you a grade structure because it differs from company to company. But if you're looking for a higher or degree level, you can find a lot of information from the government website. They advertise jobs there and they will tell you the grades that you would need to get on. As an overview, level 4 and level 5 last 2 to 4 years. They fall into the higher bracket. So on completion, provided you've passed everything, you'll gain a qualification that is higher than your A levels, not as high as a degree. Quite often it can be a foundation degree, or it could be something specific to that job so that you can go out into the big bad world and operate as a whatever job role you've got qualified in. Level 6 is a degree level, so you get exactly the same qualification as what you would at university, just through a work placement education. So the course itself will last between 4 and 6 years, depending on how it's set up again. And on completion, you will get that degree, providing you pass either a BSc or a BA, exactly the same as what you would gain if you went to university. Level 7 is sometimes a bachelor's level, sometimes a master's level. So it can be a step further ahead from where you are currently, but you can find that you can get onto level 7s some of the time directly from your A-level results. Currently, there are over 200 different courses running at higher and degree level, with over 100 universities attached to them. Usual route in, you apply for a job role, so go onto the government website or alternative websites. Find a job that is right for you, apply for it. Providing you get that company will be lined up with the university. So the usual route, you don't choose your university. Saying that, the employer that you're aligned to work with has done the research. They know exactly what you're going to be needing for your job role. They have checked out all the courses. They've done all the legwork. They've made sure that that course suits to that job role. You will be learning to either a higher or a degree level. Self-explanatory, that one. Salary-wise, so salary starts at £4.30 per hour, though a lot of companies pay more than that. At degree level, the average salary is between £17,000 and £18,000 per year, so significantly higher than the minimum wage. There is no debt to pay, so not everybody that goes to university has to pay tuition fees, but those that do, you're looking up of, for a standard 3-year course, up of £27,000 to pay back at the end of it. Through the apprenticeship programme, that is covered either by your employer or by the government, so it doesn't come out of your own pocket. You do get an NUS, so even though you're in full-time work, you do qualify as a student. That university that you're tied into, you can use the libraries, the gyms, the unions. You can go through trials to represent the sports team. As Felix just mentioned, different societies, they're all available for you as well. Providing you pass everything, at the end, you also get a graduation. So you are still a member of that university. 4 to 6 years, that's because it is full-time work and part-time study, so it's spread over a longer period. But at the end of it, that's 4 to 6 years worth of work experience. In the field you're qualified, no fees to pay back, plus the money you've earned, which is a nice little package. I'm going to hand over to Heidi now.
Hello. Yeah, so I'm Heidi. Hello, everyone. I'm currently a level 3 apprentice at KPMG, which for anyone who doesn't know is one of the major accounting firms in the UK or internationally. But yeah, so although my apprenticeship that I've just finished is level 3, which, as Dan has just explained, is sort of equivalent to your A-levels, I'm then moving on to do my degree apprenticeship next. But yeah, so if you could switch to the next slide, thank you. So for my sort of current roles and responsibilities that I just do on sort of a day-to-day basis, I work in business support, which is sort of like the segment of our firm that does all of the back house work, and we're sort of like the clockwork that keeps everything ticking for all of our client facing staff who go out and meet all of our clients. So I spend part of my time working on our central administration team, which we call the Ask team, which is just completing sort of administration tasks for anyone who's of a C grade and above. And then I spend probably like 70% of my time assisting some of our senior stakeholders. So those are our partners and our directors. And I have had many, so I've worked in quite a few different areas of the firm. You know, I've worked in insolvency and I've worked in retail and all these different sort of areas, and I've got insight into all of them through working with stakeholders in those areas. And then alongside those sort of core roles, I also have smaller roles that could be sort of things within the apprentice community or corporate responsibility, which is essentially like volunteering. That's how I get to come and do things like this, inclusion and diversity roles, things like that. So yeah, a typical day for me might be a combination of administration stuff that I do as part of my team, or helping my stakeholders with their client work, going to meet clients, liaising with the clients, things like that. Training and learning development. So, you know, if there's anything that I feel like I particularly want to upskill on, and it could literally be anything. It could be like my presentation skills, or maybe I want to learn about a specific area within KPMG, like environment or something like that. I can do training courses, and there's loads of like platforms made available to me that I can do that through. we also have sort of like various team projects and initiatives that I can take part in and sometimes take lead on, which is good for sort of developing my project management skills and things like that. And a lot of those sort of tie into my like corporate responsibility roles and things like that. So it could be that I get to lead on organising a charity event for one of our partner charities or something like that. And then I also obviously get study time, not at the moment because I have just qualified, but beforehand I did get study time, which is normally 20% of your time for level 3, and then I think you can sometimes get a little bit more than that if it's higher, but I think generally about 20%. And for me, I just did that as like 4 days on and then 1 day off per week. So yeah, that's how I sort of base my days. We can move to the next slide. So the recruitment process for me, I feel like I'm not always the best example because it was like surprisingly easy for me, and I know that's not always the case. But I sort of just did general searching across lots of different places. So you can use recruitment sites like Indeed and Reed and things like that. And then there's also the government website, the Find an Apprenticeship site, which is probably the best one out of all of them because it's the most sort of official for apprenticeships. And then you can also, obviously, if you've got a particular company or a particular sort of area, like career path that you want to go down, you can look at companies directly and see if they do apprenticeships and apply directly through their website. Or obviously, if you've got professional social media, I know it's not that common when you're still sort of just like in college, but if you've got things like LinkedIn, you normally find all of it listed on there. So I found mine through Indeed, the one that I'm currently on. And in terms of sort of preparation before going into it, I would say the most important thing is to sort of research the company, and by that I mean sort of their mission statement and their values and things, because there's not really any point in going to work for a company where their sort of like morals and beliefs and stuff don't really align with what you feel. Also practicing your interview skills. So most people would probably get a chance to do that through their school or their college at some point, you know, doing mock interviews and stuff. But if not, you can always just like practice on a parent or something, just whatever you have chance to do. And then obviously just ensure that your CV is sort of like up to date and smartly drafted and things like that. Maybe get, again, a parent to check over it or something. But yeah, and then if you've got any skills that you think are quite unique or are sort of quite transferable to a workplace environment, it's good to lean into those and to highlight them as much as you can during the recruitment process, because that's the sort of things that employers will look for the most. And then in terms of the interviews, again, mine was easier than a lot of other people's can be. Mine was just a short sort of role specific assessment. So it's just sort of like basic maths and English, making sure that I could write and things like that. And then a face-to-face interview with whoever my manager would have been. But for most apprenticeships, there would also be an assessment centre. So it could be a whole day or a half day or something where you would go into, well, maybe not go into during COVID, but in a normal world, you would go into the employer's place of work and you would do like activities and stuff as a group, and they would just sort of watch the group doing what they're doing and note down what they think about each person. And sometimes you can even have sort of video submissions and stuff, and that's become quite common virtually at the moment. They might ask you to sort of, I don't know, maybe answer some questions, but instead of just writing them, they might ask you to send in a video of you saying it, which is a little bit, feels a bit weird. Not my favourite thing, but yeah, that's quite common at the moment as well. If we can swap to the next slide. Okay, thank you. So main reasons why I think apprenticeships are good. For me, I think the biggest one has been networking and getting my foot in the door. I have met so many people through my apprenticeship. It's sort of hard to keep track because obviously I've met people just through my workplace, but and even then that's a lot of people because I've got people on my team and then people from other teams, and I've switched roles a couple of times since being here, so I've met people along the way doing that. But then I also work with people outside of my company, so I meet loads and loads of people every day, and it just gives you a lot of good contacts to the point where if you feel like you have a question about any sort of area of work, or maybe you're just looking for your next step and you fancy going for something different, you might already know someone sort of working in that area, which is quite useful. And then sort of life and interpersonal skills. So I feel like I wouldn't have done anything like this had I not done an apprenticeship, because I was always quite shy, but it's boosted my confidence and it's just helped me with things like time management. And as I said, I've got like project management skills and things like that now, which won't always necessarily get the chance to do if you were going to uni. It's sort of like when you go to uni, it might just be on a case-by-case basis to see what you actually get to do. And then obviously earning is a massive reason why people might choose to do an apprenticeship, because it does come with the salary. Mine is quite good, definitely, especially considering I'm only a level 3 apprentice as well. And I find that I honestly don't think I've ever actually seen an employer genuinely pay the apprentice minimum wage. It's just not something I've seen, and I've looked a lot. So yeah, the pay is not too bad either, and obviously it gives you a little bit of financial stability, so you can still have that sort of social life outside of work. Like I just work a 9 to 5, so I can go home. I don't have like homework to do or anything, so I can go out with my friends and I have the money to do it. Which also sort of just ties into like freedom and maturity. So as I said, I have that freedom where I'm not like tied down doing assignments or anything. If I chose to, fair enough, but like I don't have to. I'm not obligated to do it. So my free time is my free time and I can do what I want with it. Hands-on learning, I'm pretty bad in classroom environments. So I am also a former student of KEDS. I obviously I enjoyed it, but I did find while I was there that I just struggle in classroom environments. It's like sometimes the information goes in one ear and out the other. But when I'm actually doing it and learning on the job, I retain it a lot better and I understand it a lot quicker. Don't have to have things repeated to me as much. So if that resonates at all, then it could be for you. And then obviously good work-life balance, because as I said, I can log off whenever I want at the end of the day and not have to do anything after work. I get my weekends to do whatever I want as well. So, you know, just in general, good work-life balance. And a lot of employers, especially after COVID, are being quite flexible with working. So you could flex your hours if that works better for you. You could work from home, whatever is good. And then there's like a wealth of different progression routes as well after an apprenticeship. So it could be that if you feel like you want to go and study a different way and study further, you could maybe go back into sort of traditional education afterwards, or you could carry on and do another apprenticeship like I have, or you could just go straight into employment. There's loads of different things, and obviously if you, depending on what sort of area you do your apprenticeship in, that could open up several doors in other areas as well, that sort of link closely to it. And then opportunities that you might not get at universities or colleges and things like that, which I touched on earlier. You might not happen to come across like a situation that gives you the chance to develop certain skills like events management or something. So yeah, getting the chance to do those in the workplace is quite beneficial, because you wouldn't necessarily get to do them if you were just going the traditional route of university. But yeah, if we can move to the next slide. So I think this is my last slide. The advice I would give to other people would just be that apprenticeships aren't worse, I guess, than university. I know a lot of people sort of have that misconception, but that's not the case. Like, you get the same qualifications that aren't weighted any differently to what people at university would get. And then, as I said earlier, if you're someone who learns by doing rather than watching or listening, then it could very well be a good fit for you. Ensure you're quite prepared, because apprenticeships are getting really, really competitive. They are definitely like a battleground of some very talented applicants at the moment, and places are obviously sort of that employers will only take on as many as they need, so it can change year by year, company by company, so you can't always guarantee if you're going to be up against, I don't know, 10 people for 2 spaces or 1,000 people for 30 spaces. So it's good to be prepared and to try and make yourself stand out. And then also just consider what your ultimate aim is, or if you've even got one, because there are sort of opportunities for those who have a set idea in mind of where they want to go with their career. And then there's also opportunities for people who, quite like me, had no clue what they wanted to do. So if you want to pick a more generalist area, then you can, and then sort of see what doors that opens up for you and carry on from there. So yeah, that is pretty much everything from me.
Thank you ever so much. That was great. That was really insightful, say, to get a good idea of things from a different perspective from someone who's moved into doing an apprenticeship. That's great. Thank you so much, Heidi. Now we'll move on to Leigh, who can tell us about her experiences at university and onto employment. Leigh, if you're there, that's great. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. You'll have to excuse me, my parents' dog has decided he's my best friend, and he every so often will come in and pop his head up. He's very chill. So my name is Leigh. I went to King Edward's from 2013 to 2015, which, as I say, it sounds like a horrendously long time ago. I then went on to do my degree in psychology at the University of Bath. I did my placement there at HMP Earlstoke, which is a men's prison in Wiltshire. And now I am working as a mental health recovery worker with Rethink Mental Illness. Yeah, so I guess that's a little bit of an outline. I moved from Birmingham, so yeah, which is where I was living. I now live in Salisbury with my partner, which is obviously a bit of a quieter environment than Birmingham. I think one of the big things that I wish I'd known when I was during college, before I started out on my journey, if you like, is to take the path which is right for you and not the path that is expected of you by whoever is in your life. I think there was quite a lot of pressure on me from various people in my life to apply at like Oxford or Cambridge because I had the grades for it. But looking at the courses, there wasn't any psychology courses there, and that was my passion. There wasn't the sort of courses that I wanted, and I really wanted to do a placement because I knew that experiencing the world of work would be essential for me because I just know how I learn. And yeah, there was a lot of pressure and a lot of kind of internalized debating about, oh, should I apply, shouldn't I apply? And I ended up not applying. I applied at Bath, which had a placement year, and I can honestly say that is the best decision that I ever made. It might not have the prestige of having a sort of Oxford or Cambridge degree, but it was the right choice for me. And kind of looking back, I think had I not done that, had I gone to Oxford, had I gone to Cambridge, I wouldn't have met my partner. I wouldn't have done my placement, which was essential for getting a job. And I probably wouldn't be where I am now, which is a very happy place. I don't think I could have handled the pressure either. So I think it's really important to consider what path is right for you rather than the people around you. I guess in terms of, I'm sure you will all have heard the spiels about university life. If you're watching this kind of group thing. You'll be doing your research. You'll know what university life is like. I had a great time. I think Bath is a very quiet city, so that I didn't go there for the nightlife. But yeah, I had an absolutely wonderful time. What I would say is if you're going to do a degree, do it in something you're really passionate about, because it's a lot of work. If you start a degree in something that maybe you're not enthusiastic about, you might struggle a little bit, because it's a lot of work and it's a lot of thinking about the same topic, like pretty much over and over. If I didn't like psychology as much as I did, I'd have been sick of it by the end of the degree. And the same advice goes for sort of dissertation topics. That's a significant amount of your time. Pick something that you're interested in, pick something which really sort of perks your interest. I've got the list of kind of topics to talk about as well on my phone, so I'll just have a quick look. COVID, yeah, so in terms of COVID, I was really lucky that I graduated in 2019, so just before the whole COVID events started. That said, it has affected the work environment. I'm a mental health worker, so I work in social care, which means I've been working throughout the whole pandemic. If you are looking for jobs, if you're deciding that maybe you want to take a gap year or you'd like to go straight into employment, the health and social care industry is really looking for people at the moment. I would say that if you're going to go on to do a degree, or you're interested in a career in kind of psychology, sociology, working with people, vulnerable adults, that kind of thing, what I would suggest is considering a gap year, working in an environment like a mental health service, like a residential care service. Get that experience up first and then go into doing your degree. Because when I was hired for my job now, what got me hired was my experience. So my placement year, I also did a fair amount of volunteer work while I was at uni. So I think getting that experience is just as important as having good grades. So if you can get lots of experience in, absolutely do. Use COVID as an excuse to do some really good work in the community in health and social care, if that's the type of thing that you're interested in. I think Felix talked a little bit about money and accommodation. He did say about if you've got en suites, people eat in their rooms. I was in an ensuite. I absolutely ate in my rooms. I think had I been in an accommodation with like shared toilets, I probably would have socialised a little bit more. But do consider what's right for you. If you're pretty happy being quiet and not so much into that, ensuite's fine. What else? Oh yeah, okay, so in terms of doing my degree, one of the things that was really helpful for me was looking at the disabled students grant loan thing. If you have a long-term health condition, whether that's a physical disability, a sensory disability, a mental health condition like I had, the people at KEDS were great in terms of helping me find that disabled students fund. By applying for the Disabled Students Fund, I was able to get support throughout my degree. So I had considerations taken into place. I had extra time on my exams. My accommodation placement was different, so I would have struggled, because of my condition, I would have really struggled in a shared bathroom. So having the disabled students assessment on my side meant that I was placed somewhere with an ensuite when it was actually quite competitive to get one. It also meant that I had a mentor throughout the whole of my degree. So my degree was 4 years, and I had a specialist mental health mentor who met with me like once weekly, once every fortnight, just to check up that things were okay. And that was a godsend. I think I would have really struggled without that. So if you do have a mental health condition, definitely look into the disabled students allowance. It's what it's there for, and it is really beneficial in terms of getting you that degree, getting you that stability that you need to do a degree. Trying to think of any other bits and bobs. Yeah, I guess in terms of the course content, when I did my degree, because it was a BSc, it was a lot of research methods, a lot of kind of the scientific basis of things. if you are less inclined towards the scientific things, don't be frightened. You can still do it. They teach you, they're very careful, they're very good in terms of getting through that research methods bit in your first year. I also at KEDS did the statistics. I think it was like SST or something, I can't remember now, but they did a special statistics course for psychology and humanities students. That was really great and made me less scared of stats when I went to university. If that's still going, have a look, see if you can get yourself looking at that in your final year, because it's really helpful if you're interested in kind of degrees like psychology, sociology. But also be aware that the qualitative methods of research, they're just as good, they're just as useful, just looks at a different aspect of society. So if you are worried about the amount of stats and things on courses like psychology, sociology, don't be. It's not as scary as you think, and there is always the option to do qualitative research. I'd also advise attending your lectures if the pandemic allows. A lot of lectures are recorded. I know a lot of ours were recorded. I found it really hard. I was always like, yeah, no, I'll watch it. I'll definitely watch it later and I'll definitely take notes. And then I didn't. So the best thing you could do is turn up and then you're actually absorbing the stuff in person. I know that's really boring, but it's you're paying for it, so you may as well get your money's worth. In terms of the placement, in terms of the benefits of a placement, I think that's essential for going on to long-term work. It gave me the opportunity to be a bit of a fly on the wall in somewhere I would never normally get to go to. So like I said, I did my work placement in a prison service. That's not an environment you normally get to see. I had the best of both worlds, so I was allowed to do some of the kind of I guess the more professional things. So I was in meetings, I was taking notes and observing, as well as interacting with the offenders face to face. And that work experience was just so essential to me getting my job and also developing as a person. I think I was a totally different person after I'd done my work placement because it gave me such confidence. So if you are considering a series of degrees and one of them has a placement and one of them doesn't, really have a look at that. Really consider a placement because it gives you experience that you really can't get elsewhere. And also, I guess, look into placements that aren't available elsewhere. So the placements team at Bath was amazing. HMP Alstoke did not offer a placement to any other university. So some universities do have a kind of edge, if you like, into certain placements. Have a look, go to the university fairs and go and ask them questions about their placements, if that's something that you're really interested in. Be aware that in psychology and social studies, I guess, a lot of placements aren't paid, but you're still kind of working full time. So I was working pretty much 9 to 5 without pay, and then I didn't have the time to then go and do a part-time job when I was doing my placement, so money was tight. I think everyone knows the stereotypes of money being tight for students. I did do a bit of part-time work during my studies, which was, it was okay, but I probably would have done better had I not been working at the same time. But yeah, in terms of when I did my placement, that I wasn't working, money was really tight. So maybe start saving if that's an option for you. I don't think there are any other bits and bobs, but I'm sure there might be questions, so I'm happy to answer those. I hope that's all right.
That's fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Leigh. That's really, really insightful, and you've obviously had a wealth of experience. That's really, really great. What we can do now is we'll offer it out to any of the people viewing if they want to type in any questions. While they do that, I've got a couple that I'd be quite interested to hear about. I'll start with you, Leigh. In terms of the course itself, how did you find the big differences were in teaching from your experience of studying A-levels?
I think the big difference was what is expected of you, and also the being okay with failing. They don't count your grades in first year for a reason. So I think I went from my grades that I got at KEDS were A star, A star, A. So I was performing top of my game. First assignment I did at university, I failed it because I just wasn't used to it. You need a lot more critical thinking, a lot more kind of independent work. And actually, it's okay to muck up your first couple of essays in first year. They don't count the marks. It's there to practice. You just need to really take on board that feedback that you get on essays, on presentations, and use it. Don't just kind of look at your result and then close it, never looking at it again. Keep a log of that feedback so you know what to work on.
That's great. Thank you ever so much. I'd like to ask a question of Heidi, if I may, if you're still able to jump on. Just from, again, it was fantastic to hear about your experiences, particularly going on to a level 3 apprenticeship and then your plans to move on. Obviously, one of the main differences between university and apprenticeships is obviously kind of accommodation and those type of things. Was that anything that was a consideration of yours, or when you started your apprenticeship?
Yeah, so one of the sort of determining factors for me with not going to university was that a lot of those sort of stereotypes, not stereotypes, but just sort of like general things that come with being a uni student weren't massively appealing to me. Like, just as a personal preference, I didn't really feel like I wanted to go and live in shared housing or anything, and I wasn't massively keen on moving out of Birmingham at the moment. So yeah, I just thought I'd like to earn some money though, but still get qualifications. So that was sort of part of my decision making, really. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So in terms of when you stayed at home and obviously in commute into KPMG. Okay, wonderful. I've got a, I suppose I can pass on to Dan. In terms of apprenticeships, kind of generally, what, obviously degree apprenticeships and the higher ones you've mentioned can be quite competitive and things. How do the kind of numbers generally compare to? I mean, how competitive are they in terms of finding a successful place?
It totally depends on which company you're going to. So some companies, as Heidi said, she works for KPMG, they do offer degree and higher levels. Some companies you'll find you catch them at the right time, you can walk straight in, as Heidi has. Some of them you could be looking at thousands of applicants for 100 or a couple of hundred places. One tip I would say, if you can get any work experience that is relative to the job you're going to be doing, it will help you stand out when it comes to the application process.
Great stuff, that's fantastic. And finally, a question for Felix. If there was one piece of advice to give to current students, something that you wished you knew then that you do now, what would you think that would be?
Oh, there are like 4 or 5 going through my head.
Share them all.
Oh, I don't know. I'll do like two or three. When it comes to academic stuff, and I think this echoes what I think Leigh was saying. I think go to as many lectures and modules as you can. Like, do as much, even if it doesn't interest you, because you really don't want to be sort of sitting at the end of your degree thinking, I paid $9,000 a year to sort of not do stuff. So go to absolutely everything. If your uni does, like, we have, like, I think they're called like colloquiums, which are like little discussion, like roundtables. They have academics who they sort of offer to give advice or to just talk about a subject area or a certain field. Go and attend those extracurricular stuff. They're really fantastic. They're really good. There's another one. This maybe isn't so relevant to academic stuff, and I don't want to like scare anyone, but I think it is a good piece of advice. I don't know what how other people here have found it, but when it comes to, I obviously mentioned halls and that sort of accommodation, but when you move out into sort of second or third year and you're renting a place, join a renters union, because student landlords are infamously awful. I don't want to scare anyone, but I've heard so many horror stories of people who live in kind of, you know, who accidentally pick a bad landlord and they have sort of mold in their room. We're really lucky here. We don't have any of that, but have mold in their room, who have, you know, sort of really bad noise coming from neighbours, who have leaks and all that stuff. So join a renters union, get protected, and you know, make sure landlords don't take advantage of you by stealing your deposit and stuff like that, because I've heard so many things about that, and I think it can be one of the biggest things that can screw up your uni experience is like a bad landlord who takes advantage of you. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird piece of advice, but that's a big one for me, I think.
Fantastic. Well, that's been really, really good. Thank you ever so much. I really greatly appreciate it, and that you've been able to offer a whole load of insight that I think is incredibly vital for students considering their next steps. So yeah, I just want to say a big thank you. I'll stop the recording in just a moment, and we'll make this available in the next couple of days to any students that weren't able to catch the live event. But that was really fantastic. Thank you ever so much. That